So hi guys, I just wanted to talk quite quickly about the very basics, and that is the daytime approach model, if you like. And the reason this came up was because last week I did some coaching with a guy, and it was almost as if just simply going back to basics, even for a guy who was quite experienced, who was quite confident actually, had no problem approaching girls, even just a little bit of encouragement and he was off. And you know, he was actually very successful during this trip, and he just sort of hadn't quite got embedded, you know, the basic model, such that it was such in a way such an easy thing to adjust and to just communicate to him. And once he kind of got it, you know, ping was a light bulb moment, and everything made sense to him. And I'd be very surprised now if he doesn't go on to achieve quite a lot of success in this area, because he has certainly got the conviction and determination to succeed. But you can often be banging your head against a wall, can't you? And you often wonder why, and it can get you quite down and angsty. And actually, it may just simply be that you're not following the basic model. And I think this is a problem often with guys who are reasonably experienced, but they've started to kind of improvise and they've forgotten the basic model. And at times like that, why not just simply go back to the basics, particularly after an 18-month global shutdown? This video is as much for me as it is for you, to remind myself of what the basis of the model is, because once you've mastered the principles, the basics, then in a way, the model does the work for you, the skills do the work for you. You see this in a whole range of different areas of life, whether it's learning a golf swing, whether it's learning to give a speech, Toastmasters, or for example, it's quite interesting because a lot of guys think they don't like following a model because it feels unnatural. I'm not asking you to duplicate lines to girls, I'm just asking you to follow a model and get it so deeply embedded into your psyche that it then happens naturally. And I think stand-up comedy is quite a good analogy here, because people watch stand-up comedy and they're wowed by it and think it's amazing, and they don't really understand. I did a little bit of it when I was at university, enough to understand the principles. They don't understand that these guys have a model, they know where they're going. They may say, let's take a suggestion from the audience, but they know exactly how they're going to, that doesn't throw them, because they know how to deal with a variety of different suggestions from the audience. Does it sound a little bit like daytime approach? Yeah, and making assumptions, not quite being clear what it is or sure what it is you're going to get back from the girl and how to deal with it. Well, if you understand the model and you've got enough energy and you've got some confidence during the conversation, the model will do the work for you, and then you'll discover in time that you'll make it your own, and you will have all these fun improvisations around what is just simply keeping in mind, almost like a checklist, that you are following the steps or the beats of the socially dynamic skill of having a flirtatious conversation with a girl. So let's just go through those beats quickly, and I do urge you to go back. It can never be any harm in going back to the basics. It can cure so many problems. So the first thing is, and memorize the principles, these beats, yeah, and then rinse and repeat. Okay, so that they are not just intellectual knowledge, but they're practical, kind of physically embedded knowledge, unconscious competence. To stop, you've got to be able to go over to a girl and be confident in stopping her. And if she's in the street, you're gonna need to give her some space. And I like to think of friendly traffic policemen. It means that I'm keeping my distance, I'm not getting up to her too closely, and I am smiling. Friendly policeman, but a policeman's confident, right? So that helps me. Now the next thing is the compliment. Yeah. Now before you even pay a compliment, and it's part of the stop itself is to smile. And now you may think, oh, I'm feeling lousy, bluesy on Monday morning at 11 o'clock. Would you expect me to smile? I'll tell you what. If you do it enough, it just becomes automatic, and you suddenly find yourself in a smiley place, or a cheeky smiley place, preferably. And because I remember struggling with that and not wondering why girls were slightly, what's going on. And then I smiled, and then I did it again, and I did it again, and I realised, hang on, every time I smile, I get a good reaction. When you smile, you ever think it's like, excuse me. And you don't need to be ready inside. The model will do the work for you. You don't need to be in a deeply philosophical, spiritual, feeling good about myself vibe place. The model will take you there. In fact, that's the best time to approach when you're a bit bluesy sometimes. So anyway, so that's the smile and the stop. Then it's the compliment. Now, keep it simple. We don't have a problem paying compliments as guys. But what we often forget is to call out the situation before we pay the compliment. And that just simply means just saying a bunch of stuff, kind of random stuff, because you've actually got to adjust to the fact that a stranger has just stopped her in the street or in a coffee shop. And that's where you say, I think it's more important in the street. It's more subtle, and you tweak the model in a coffee shop, but don't worry about the situation right now. This is just understanding the basic model. You've got to say something like, look, I know it sounds a bit crazy, but I had to come up and tell you I think you look really nice. You may say, I just saw you coming out of the shop over there, but burdened with shopping. God knows, what the size of your credit card bill is going to be at the end of this month. But you don't need to complicate it, just keep it simple. And that gives her time to adjust to the fact that you're stopped her and you're talking to her and you're interested in her romantically. So it just gives her time. It's a socially intelligent thing to do to adjust to the situation. Okay, now here's the really critical thing. You're there, the girl has stopped, and it's, whoa, she's stopped, she's interested, she's got a smile on her face now, she's wondering what's coming, you paid her a compliment and she's enjoyed it. If she hasn't, then you might need to let it go. She might be busy, she might be unavailable, you might not have quite done it right. Fine, you let it go and rinse and repeat. Now, you then need to bridge into the main sort of meat of the conversation or the model, and this is the area where a lot of guys struggle, and it's just really simple. Just use this line, okay? Don't get clever. Memorize this line. What I noticed about you is, okay. Now, if you've seen something about her that you like when you first saw her in the street, she's a brunette, she's got big dark glasses, got nice tan, she looks a bit French. You've observed that, that's what attracts you to her. I'm attracted to brunettes, and I have happy memories of visits to Paris on watercolour painting holidays. It's all good conversational fuel for later. Yeah. So if you've found out what it is that you're genuinely attracted to in that girl, it's congruent, isn't it? You've approached this girl because you're genuinely attracted to her, not just because I need to approach someone. So you then have an observation, either because, as I say, you've thought of something before you've approached her, or this is the time now when she's standing in front of you to think of what you're going to say by way of an observation. And saying it really slowly, what I noticed about you will give you time, and you'll be surprised something will come up. And just be patient with yourself, take it slow, and some observation will come up, an earring or a tattoo, or she's got loads of shopping, or she's got she doesn't look like a Scandinavian or a Russian or wherever you happen to be. She stands out in the street, or she's got a funky walk, or she's walking very quickly. She seems like a banking executive and going to a power lunch. There's a whole different range of different observations you can give in the street, obviously. trust yourself that an observation will pop into your head at that point. Okay, then you are assumption stacking. You're into the assumption stage. Assumption stacking is a bit of a funny expression, but what you're doing with this sort of stage or phase is you are actually fishing. You're fishing for a topic. You're not just making assumptions for the sake of it. You're trying to tease a topic out of the girl that you can riff on. You're trying to find out a little bit about her. And you're putting the camera on her, as it were, the spotlight at her, not you. This is not an opportunity for you to talk about yourself. That can come later. This is an opportunity for you to find out about the girl and to tease and challenge her and generate attraction. And that's why you really keep it simple, one of 3 assumptions. What's she doing right now? Shopping or whatever. Where's she from? She looks French. What she does for a living. She's a high-powered banking executive on the way to a power lunch, I'm guessing. Okay. When you lay those assumptions, not questions, assumptions, then you'll get a reaction. You might get, wow, yes, you're spot on. Happens more often than you would think. You might get, actually no, and then she'll tell you what she does, and then you've got the topic. So that's the purpose of the assumption stage, is you're fishing for a topic. When you've got the topic, that's the time to start to tease and challenge. Now you may be more a guy who's more in tune, is more kind of like man of few words, the sort of strong and silent type. Fine. In that case, you'll be leaning towards more challenging and going, really? So you aren't at work today, you've taken the afternoon off. You're playing truant. Does your boss know? You may be more challenging, yeah? Or you may be more teasing, like, oh yeah, there's a load of students in this city and I don't know how they ever expect to get themselves a job because they spend most of the time drinking Frappuccino on the phones to their mothers and staring in shop windows and ringing up a credit card bill. You're one of those lovable, lazy students. Give her a cheeky smile. So you're not being too critical and it's clear that you're teasing. So you may be a challenging kind of a dude, you may be a teasing dude, but you only go into that phase after the girl has given you a topic that you can talk about. Yeah. If you ever go too far and you feel you're a little bit critical about a girl, just say, but I like it. You've got a breezy nonchalance about you. There's a word you don't get to use often. You've got a casual, lazy, you're like a pussy cat, So that's the assumption that's the key stage. Once you're into that stage of a conversation with a girl, that's really great, and you are generating attraction, hopefully, and you are waiting for her to invest, to take an interest in you. Why is it critical to keep your radar going, keep awake, be aware of that point? And that's because what you want to see if she's she reciprocates, and also you want to then switch gears into the final phase, okay, which is to dial it down, frankly, and to have an ordinary conversation with another human being. And you'll know when she invests, incidentally, if she asks you a question about who you are, what you're doing, and so on and so forth. Or she may give you physical cues that she's genuinely interested in you. So then you're dialing down. And dialing down, as I say, means having a regular conversation. So she doesn't go home and think that you're some street performer, but that you're a regular guy. And I think one of the most important, there's 2 things to say about the dialing down phase, and I think the first thing is that you actually tell her about yourself a bit, what you're doing. This is an opportunity, particularly if you're in a foreign city, let's say, to ground the conversation by saying, I'm visiting London, Warsaw, Moscow. I've got some business interests and some good friends here. I regularly fly over. I'm actually thinking about buying a property here. Something that's not too far from the truth, that is true, but you've elaborated a little bit of a fantasy too, just to put her mind at rest that you are not just looking to have sex that night and getting on the plane the next morning. Yeah. Guys often go too far the wrong way, and that's why they need to compensate by elaborating a bit and exaggerating the extent to which they are planning to regularly visit the city, for example. So grounding is really important, and telling her a story about yourself is another thing. And it might be this might be the point in the interaction when you refer back to your days when you visited Paris on a painting holiday and you had an amazing time and an affair with a French brunette. So that's the kind of the final phase, and then of course right at the end is the close. Be saying, look, I think a time restraint is really good during the close sequence. We're saying, look, I can see you're busy, I've got a meeting to get to as well, or my friend is waiting for me, better go. But look, I'd like to get to know you better, let's exchange contact details. And as you're saying that, be getting your phone out and we'll meet up for a drink sometime. And then you do the phone thing, and then you say goodbye. So there is the basic model. Now, I've done vlogs about this before, but I make no apology for doing it now, because I think it's just, and I speak for myself as much as anybody else, particularly after 18 months of things being quite quiet. It just does absolutely no harm to go back to basics and to be focused on running the model during the course of the conversation. Yeah. And just kind of dusting off the old toolbox, if you like, and rinse, repeat. In other words, you're kind of focused on the skill and executing the skill like you would be driving a golf ball, rather you are on winning the tournament, getting a girlfriend or getting a number. You're focused on just doing it well, handling the social situation as well as you possibly can, and the rest is not in your hands, my friend. That's up to the universe. But what is under your control is following the model. And when you do that enough times, you'll start to be aware where you are in the model and how you can tweak the model. If you've missed a bit of the model that you think, well, that's not actually generated any attraction here, you just had a conversation, you can then bring in the attraction phase at the end, so you can kind of play around, and of course then you can start to improvise and be a lot more spontaneous, and eventually you won't need to worry about the model at all. But don't kid yourself that I don't need the model, I don't need to follow a structure. There are very few guys who are so good at this stuff, and even those that are very good probably need to go back to basics after a layoff, that they don't need to refresh themselves with the basic underlying model and the basic underlying principles of what makes a good daytime approach. Okay guys, that's all for today. I will be vlogging to you in the very near future, I hope, aiming to do one of these every 2 weeks or so, if not more. I've been speaking to James Tusk today. He's coming over to Warsaw in a couple of weeks, and we're going to do a joint face-to-face vlog. I think we're going to get into the philosophy of daytime approach and dating, and how to approach this whole thing in the current climate, because it feels like there's been some sort of substantial, significant shift in society and in culture, particularly in the UK. And so we'll be having conversations riffing around that topic. I hate to use the word, but kind of a post-COVID dating conversation, I guess. Okay, strap on your balls, guys. That's all for today.